Welcome to the Book Pub Podcast. This is a podcast where two wonderful, beautiful ladies who are voluptuous and I don't know, I'm watching Madeline's pantomimes.
Because you say that same thing every time, and I've kind of come to know it, and so now I'm
you have a little
pantomiming it as we go. And for some reason, when you hit ladies, I meant to do curves, and it came out
but
instead
you did
of
boobs
sideways.
instead.
Because I'm not voluptuous, so... Anyways.
Two ladies with boobs talk about an author and the books that they wrote.
While enjoying, and yet have to have a sip of
Yes.
a cocktail.
Woohoo!
So this is us sober. Imagine what we're like when we actually have the cocktail. And we usually try and pair that cocktail with the author to make the diving into artistic people, kind of a little snazzy.
Yeah.
So yay.
Yeah, today we're talking about Colette.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Everyone keeps saying Colette. Does she have a last name? Or is it like Cher, Jesus, and Madonna?
Later on in her life, she was just Colette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I meant. Not like, obviously you're born with the last name, but it's like, is she like Cher, Jesus, and Madonna, where you only go by that singular name?
Yes, exactly. What was Jesus' last name?
Christ.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. Point is they really are known by their first name.
Right, yes. Yes. So, Colette is a French author, best known for writing the novella Gigi and the Claudine stories, which many consider to be the original queer young adult series, like the first queer young adult series. She was nominated for a Nobel Prize in Literature, and after you hear about her, you'll be super bummed that you didn't know who she was before, because she had a hell of a life. A lot of her work suggested that gender is subjective a century before people added pronouns to their Twitter bios.
Huh.
Yeah. So she's cool.
She's interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting. I feel like that just should always be a background sound for people from Friends.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's one of my favorite quotes from Friends. I think it's Monica who says it, and it's all the betting one. It's the one where they all bet.
On the apartments and stuff. Oh, okay, I kind of remember that.
And wait, no, it's Jennifer Aniston, and they do something, and she goes, "Ooh, that's interesting."
She had that face and everything. And
yes,
exactly.
Hilarious. And I just feel like that just needs to be one of those like those push button like sound effects things.
Oh yeah.
That should be one of them, so that you're just sitting there and someone does something, you're like, ooh, that's interesting.
That's the thing you do when you have like some like radio show or something like that, and you have like the boink button and like the woo, like zip line, the little like kazoo thing, the droop.
Yep, the fake applause one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, she sounds very, ooh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay. And what are we drinking with it?
We are drinking a drink that I have not come up with the name for yet, but maybe we'll have one at the end.
A drink with no name.
A drink with no name. Yeah, like
little
cat with no name.
Yeah, exactly. A little Truman Capote.
So it is this purple gin called Emperor 1801 or something.
1908.
1908. That works better. That's actually better.
Okay.
So Empress 1908. And so it's like 2 parts that, and then you put in a little lemoncello, and then you can top it off with some sparkling water if you want to like fill out the glass a little bit more.
We're also talking that if you have access to dried rose petals and want to get all fancy with it,
and put them on top, float them on top.
Get all fancy with it, girl.
Yes. So yeah, that is the drink that we will. That's the game this time. It's maybe not so much why did I choose this drink, but can we come up with a fun name? And I like this because I like the purple gin. Ours turned out really, really blue because I put in a little bit too much limoncello. But if it's just like a little limoncello, it stays very violet in color. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really pretty and fancy. And I can just imagine hanging out and drinking it with her and all of our other best friends.
Wearing like she's on the cover of the book. She's got like a mink thing going on.
Oh yeah.
So y'all have to have your like mink, whatever, fake mink. Don't kill minks, but
yes, some like really
stuff.
Fancy hat, and
the long cigarette stick thing.
Totally. So let's take a sip.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. L'chaim.
That's interesting. That's very, 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 very interesting.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't pinpoint what it tastes like. Is it gin? Is it limoncello? Is it gin? Is it limoncello? It's like I get a little bit of both, and then I get like nothing.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, these could probably be dangerous.
I mean, again, it's like a very florally gin. So it is, so it's going to have, I don't know, like a lot more of that like intense kind of gin flavor.
Wow. Yeah. No, this could be dangerous. That could be real dangerous. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're like in like this like total Parisian like cafe and drinking these and getting into really good conversations with this Colette woman.
Oh, yes.
You would get like 6 deep and you're like, oh my God, I'm schmammered. Whoopsies.
Yeah. It's good times. All right. Here we go. Sidonie-Gabrielle Colette was born January 28th, 1873.
Shut up.
That's right. It's her last name.
Wow. Wow. And that's why you gave me a funny look when I said, what is her last name? You're like, hee 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 hee. Yes. That exact laugh was happening.
Yeah. Like, I was like the little kid where it's like, did you take one of the cookies?
And there's chocolate all over your face. I don't know.
Yes, that was my chocolate face moment.
That was the chocolate. I love that. Wow. Okay. Okay, so that's how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. She was born January 28th, 1873 to Adele Eugenie Sidonie, also known as Sido. It's her mom. And war hero Captain Jules Joseph Colette. So this was actually Sido's second marriage. Her mom, I have to just tell a little bit about her because her mom was like really badass and kind of cool. She was like living like literally the Beauty and the Beast story where like, you know, she grows up in a nice little provincial village and this like super ugly, creepy guy, Jules Rabineau, who is named the Ape or the Savage, asked her to get married. And he was like really rich, but he was like super fugly. And he was also like a huge drunk.
Oh, God.
He like was supposedly born with like 14 extra teeth and, you know, just like real like gnarly looking.
I mean, yeah, that's, I mean, the extra teeth, not so much because Freddie Mercury was born with a lot of extra teeth too. Oh. And I think it's like, I weirdly find it like kind of like attractive in a way. Don't judge me.
Yeah, okay.
The extra teeth, not so much, but like sad that he's ugly and he's drunk because that means the Beast is not the good guy in the movie.
Yeah, and in this version, the Beast is not a good guy.
Well said.
So, you know, but he was really old and she was really young. She was like in her teens. And so she's kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll get married to you. Like, you're probably going to die soon anyway. And so, you know, she gets married to him. She has 2 kids. And then she starts having this affair with this guy, Captain Jules Colette, who was a tax collector. And he was a war hero and he had like lost his leg at battle. And so he obviously was like really, really cool if like she's going to start an affair with a guy who has like 1 leg, you know?
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah. And so, you know, her first husband dies, so then she marries the captain, and then Colette's born 8 years later.
Aw, cutesies.
Yeah. There's actually, like, a lot of interesting stories about Colette's childhood. Like, her whole life as a whole is fascinating. But I want to just point out a couple things, because I'm like, I want to get to the good stuff.
Okay.
So Colette was the favorite child of her mother's. They both shared a love for gardening and nature, and Colette was really beautiful. She had really long hair. Like, her hair was like 5 feet long.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And as a child, you're probably 5 feet.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Right? Yeah, and so she wore these like long braids. Like there's a picture in the book that's like my main reference, Secrets of the Flesh, where you see it and she's like sitting on a swing and her like braid is like down to her feet pretty much.
Oh my God.
Then her sister, Juliet, was like not so pretty because like, you know, she's like the Beast's daughter.
Yeah.
And Sido seemed to be deeply offended by the fact that her other daughter was not pretty.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Sido was very possessive of her children and her garden. And it's very clear that her atheism and free love intellectualism influenced Colette to be someone who didn't value virginity, motherhood, or even respectability as like things to hold sacred.
Which is completely the antithesis of this time.
Yes. Yeah. Victorian era, and it's just kind of like, whatever. We don't really have to be like a woman. This is kind of when feminism is sort of starting, but like, is it really?
What was the year?
Let's say like 1880s now. Yeah.
Okay. That might be Edwardian, but still. So
Yeah.
it's a little less strict on the rules than Victoria, which was a little bit earlier in the 1800s.
Yeah. So,
But still, strict times, man.
yeah. Colette would later proudly talk about how she didn't have the childhood of a writer. She did fine in school, but she barely graduated until she turned in an essay that was described as brilliant, But otherwise, she never was like, oh, I'm going to be a writer and let me start writing or anything like that. She did do a lot of reading, and her favorite author was Balzac. So she was a good reader and all of that, but she wasn't really like typical author life.
Yeah, where you're like, first published at like 12.
Yeah. Colette would later write about her childhood as, quote, nothing but roses.
Aw. Get it? Because it's gardening.
Yeah.
She likes to garden.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. She definitely is totally part of the Best Friends Club.
She's part of
so
the Best
far.
Friends. Yes. Okay, so when she was about 10 or 12, she met Henry Gunther Villars. By the way, I can't pronounce any French names, so
Sure.
don't kill me.
Sure. Oh, you were right. Sorry, I had to look it up because I, didn't want to look like an idiot. It is Victorian.
Okay.
It's Victorian is 1837 to 1901. My bad.
Okay. All right.
So there, I just had to do a quick fact
Yeah,
check because I was like, oh God, we're going to have like listeners who are like, oh my God, no. And I'm like, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to do this from like memory. I'm like just the commentator here, people.
Okay, yeah. So when Colette is about 10 or 12, she met Henry Gunther Villars. Villiers? I don't know. Gunther Villiers? Gutier Villiers?
I'd have to look at it.
Villars?
Viars?
Villars? Gutier Villars? Henry? Anyway, he was known professionally as Willie, and so I'm going to call him Willie.
Oh, you had to make that complicated. You could have said, like, Willie, a.k.a. something French and crazy. We're going to do it, Phil.
Damn it.
I love it.
He was a fairly well-known publisher and author and 14 years older than Colette. And remember, she's like 12 when they first meet. And they meet because like her dad was really into science books. And so like they go to his like publishing house or something like that. And he's just like, oh, look at this cute little girl. Here, have some candy, And
it sounds super creepy.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't worry. It gets creepier. So it wasn't until 1889 when Colette was 16 that they were reacquainted and they started having a romantic courtship where he'd bring her gifts of books and candy.
I mean, less creepy when you're a child, but like still like 16, too young. Just like back off. Just back off.
Well, and also it's like, I mean, because it's like, I think we'll do the thing of like, oh, it wasn't as weird back then when everyone's like getting married at like 16 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's creepy to be like, oh, this young girl, I want to seduce her. Let me bring her candy,
Well, yeah, but like also at the same time, Valentine, think about it, chocolates.
Sure. I guess we don't say like,
Candy.
my boyfriend's trying to seduce me with candy.
It's like he's trying to seduce me with chocolates.
Yes.
Sounds a little bit more mature and elegant and refined and sensual.
And who knows? I mean, the books probably weren't picture books where it's like, here, have a copy of Dr. Seuss. And...
Opposite directions on that one. Dr. Seuss, the Berenstain Bears.
Have you read the latest Hardy Boys?
Yeah. Oh, girl, I got something for you. Are you ready for this? Magic Treehouse.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Yeah. So, so that's kind of going on. Also, by the way, while he's like sort of seducing her with like candy and books, he's currently technically married.
Oh, God.
But
he sounds awful.
He's married, but he was living with his girlfriend of 3 years and she got pregnant.
Shut the freaking front door.
And meanwhile, he's all like,
He is
hey,
creepy.
16-year-old, hey.
Oh my God. And again, you're right. It's so creepy. It's so awful. But yeah, people were getting married at 15, 16.
But I think this shows that it's just like, no, it's always been creepy, man. Like,
It's always been creepy.
creepy.
It's been bad. It's been real bad.
Yeah.
And especially
You
if you
know
have a
that
wife
it's a
and a
child.
girlfriend and now this girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I would go back in time and just really hardcore, like, just junk punch him. Straight up.
Punch him in his willy.
Just, Willie will be punched in your willy.
So at one point when Colette was 17, Willie ends up bringing the baby to Colette's family. And Sido saw this as a way for Colette to, quote, get into the something French family through the front door. Which I'm not sure exactly like what that meant, where it's like he's bringing his baby from, because his parents didn't know that he had a girlfriend or that he had a baby with his girlfriend. And so it's like, it was kind of like he was trying to hide the baby from like his really aristocratic family. And so he goes to like, hey, girl that I'm trying to seduce, like, can your family take care of this baby? And Colette's mom sees that as like, oh, you could probably be able to have like a relationship with him, like get him to marry you because, you know, we got this secret or whatever or something, or I don't know.
Blackmail marriage totally works. Love it. Great way to start a long-term loving relationship.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not sure exactly. Like I kept on reading that one. I'm like, what does she mean by this? Like, how is that? I mean, I know that's, you know, different kind of decorum in society and things. And so, you know, what's considered scandalous is much different than what's scandalous today. But yeah, so somehow basically,
I think
yeah,
having a baby with your mistress and then trying to like pawn it off on someone you're trying to seduce, that's kind of scandalous no matter what era.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone did that in town and I heard about it, I'd be like, that is quite scandalous.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like,
yeah, that's crazy for one, and scandalous.
Super
for
nuts.
two.
And also, it's like, why don't you just get married to, like, you know, if you're estranged from your wife, divorce her, get married to the mistress who had the baby. Like, why do you have to like pawn the baby off on this other person that you're interested in? Like, marry the mistress and then turn this other girl into your mistress. Hello, like chain of
events here.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. This guy just sounds like a true gem.
Yeah. And I think it's not totally explained whatever it is, because Colette didn't really write a lot about this period of time, except, quote, the infatuation of a young girl in love is neither as constant nor as blind as she tries to believe, but her pride keeps her brave and self-contained.
Okay.
So they're basically engaged, you know, and they're engaged for like several years. And in 1893, when Colette was 20, she married Willie in a small ceremony. His parents didn't attend, and they like never approved of the marriage, never approved of the engagement.
So he did divorce the wife.
Yes. Yeah, he did divorce the wife.
And again, the mistress is just
totally left high and dry.
Her baby's been taken from her too.
Yeah, I think she gets the baby back at some point, or they take the baby and they give it to like his mom for some reason, who had never met the baby and didn't know the baby exists, and it's just like this whole weird, what the fuck is happening?
Sounds
like,
very
I don't
crazy.
know.
Sounds like someone
This is weird.
Don't really want to have in my life.
Yeah. So they're married, and Colette would later describe the first year of her marriage as, quote, the unhappiest in my life. Like within the first year of 1 year of being married, so in 1894, Colette caught Willie in bed with another woman, Charlotte Kinsler.
Shocker. Wow.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming, like the whole engagement and like how you even ended up. All right.
You are having an affair?
Yes, like right away.
I just never would have pegged you for an adulterer.
Yeah. But she actually becomes friends with Charlotte at one point.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of rom-coms nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like the women end up teaming up and becoming best friends.
Yeah.
Because the gross dude. Yeah. It's like, oh, we have this in common. That's enough. We're best friends.
Yeah. Well, and I think she didn't have a lot of friends. Like Willie, like didn't really let her have friends, probably because he was afraid of like her having an affair. So, you know, so she's this young girl hanging out with this guy that's like almost 2 decades older than her, and like his friends. And like those are the people that she is with. And so she ends up getting like repeatedly sick or suffering from like fits and hysteria and all of that. And the doctors can never figure out what's wrong with her. And it's probably very clear that she was just like having a bunch of like nervous breakdowns and like depression and stuff like that, because she's like 20 and her husband's cheating on her, and like she's known no one other life.
Keeping her in a tower. And,
yeah.
Yeah, this just in, isolation.
Yeah.
Just watch the movie Gaslight.
Yes.
Gaslamp. Gaslight?
Gaslight. Yeah.
Yeah. Not good. Not good, people.
She later wrote, quote, I had occasion to descend to the very depths of jealousy. In my writings of bygone days, I believed I compared it, as everyone does, to a sojourn in hell. Jealousy is not at all low, but it catches us humbled and bowed down at first sight. It is the only suffering that we can endure without ever becoming used to it.
I'm pained and saddened, and I know that this is still just a thing today, that crappy men get the woman, treat her horribly, go out and cheat on her, and they're jealous. And it's like, you don't need to waste that kind of negative emotion. Just be like, don't be jealous of him. Be sad because of his existence.
I think that's good advice.
Don't be jealous over someone so awful.
Yeah.
You don't want his attention. In fact, go find your attention elsewhere so I can be free.
Funny that you say that. That will come up later.
Oh, good.
In her book, My Apprenticeships, she said, quote, I had a great deal of trouble accepting that there was such a difference between the existence of a daughter and of a wife, between country life and life in Paris, between the presence, or at least the illusion, of happiness and its absence, between love and laboriousness. So it's like, you know, because, this is she's the first time she's done anything besides be a child, you know? Is now she's, she's married to this guy, and, living in Paris, and it just sucks.
Oh, poor thing.
So Willie, he was this guy. He wrote. He was like a music critic and stuff like that. Publisher. By the mid 1890s, Willie had moved on to writing fiction novels, and they were like dirty, but they were like artsy enough to not be like super dirty. So one of them was about, quote, a nymphomaniac who doesn't wear a corset and whose taste for low life is nearly as insatiable as her appetite for sex.
That sounds like just like those cheesy romance novels that
like
you find at the grocery store. Can't be bothered to be sold in an actual bookstore.
Right? Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should probably mention this. He didn't actually write this novel. His friend did. And actually, he didn't write anything. He supposedly wrote 50 books in his life. He didn't write any of them. He paid other people to write it for him, and then he put his name on it.
What a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's real good.
I hope he becomes like the prince or something, because he deserves nothing but goodness.
Fairy tales all around.
All around.
Yeah, he would probably like come up with a plot, and then he, I guess, had these like trademark puns, and he would add that in, and that's like pretty much it. And then slap his name on it, and he's done.
Wow, what a shitty person.
So in 1895, Marcel Proust wrote, I love him.
Yes.
And which, by the way, I should mention that like there was like this whole thing about the idea that like Colette and Proust had like a rivalry with each other, but what I've understood is that's not actually true. It's just like people wanted to pretend that there was, because like of how they would review both people's works at the same time, and like who's the best French writer, blah, 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 but like they're chill. Like later on, like in life, they were never like rivals.
Okay.
He writes a fan letter to Willie, and since Willie's just like too busy to reply, he asks Colette to write the letter for him. And and she wrote other letters for him. And so Willie's looking at the letter, and he realizes like, oh, she might actually have like some real good like writing talent. Maybe I should get her to write a book for me.
Oh God. So
that's kind of what happens. There's been a moment where Colette actually had said like, no, I came up with the idea to write. And, and Willie's like, okay, little child. Yeah, sure. Fine. You write something and show it to me and we'll see. He also has claimed that he was the one who told her, like, oh, you should write something. So she spends all this time writing this novel, and he looks at it and reads it, and he exclaims, I was wrong. This is nothing. And he like plans on throwing away this novel that she wrote, which was the first of the Claudine series. And it's kind of this autobiographical series, like about this young ingenue, like Claudine in school, I think is the first one. And so it's kind of about her, early life.
Okay.
Yeah, but fiction. So in 1899, all of a sudden, Willie finds the novel in a drawer, And he starts reading it, and he's immediately like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so he like...
So he changed his mind.
Yeah, he changed his mind and decides like, oh, I have to go get this published. But then he tells Colette first, like, to, quote, warm it up a bit. You know, for example, between Claudine and one of her girlfriends, an overly close relationship. He used another expression to make himself understood. Some girlish hijinks. You see what I mean?
Oh, God.
So, like, you know, he wants it to be all, like, sexy.
Yeah. Let's make it erotic.
Yeah. And I think it is a little bit. Actually, I haven't read the Claudine series.
I've never read anything, so...
Yay! Nothing ever.
Not
Not even stop signs.
Came out wrong. Not even stop signs. That blob on there, I'm not going to be bothered. Yes, I can read, but I don't read it.
Yes. So there's controversy with these novels because they were all published under his name, you know? So she wrote it, and then he published it under his name. And it's very clear that he, like, exploited her, essentially, you know? Where he owned all the copyrights, and he kept all the royalties. He gave her kind of, like, a small sum, you know, like a little allowance. Yeah. And you know, and then he did buy her a summer cottage with the money from the Claudine books, which she later reclaimed and sold.
Oh my God. Okay, I was like, okay, that's pleasant.
Nope. Then he took it back. Never mind, that's mine again. Yeah. And these were like huge hits. Like there was like merchandise associated with like the Claudine books. Like people were selling like girl like clothing and like hairbrushes and makeup cases and like cigars and all of that with like Claudine on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like literally like OG
YA. Yeah.
YA. Because that stuff happens with YA stuff. T-shirts.
Yeah, video games. Yeah.
Hairbrushes. Oh my gosh, I totally have a Twilight hair tie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a Twilight hair tie. Just, sure. Oh my God. Just needed to actually...
I just have a locket with the two main guys on and...
I keep it under my pillow. No. I was giving a point of reference.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, so because of that, like there's some, you know, it's the whole thing, like the Mary Shelley thing, everything where it's just like, did she actually really write it? Maybe he does deserve a little bit of credit. Bloom, 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 you know, thing that happens with all these female like writers who are kind of taken advantage by their like husbands or someone else in like later life decides that like, oh, a woman couldn't have done that. The husband must have done it,
yes.
You know? So same kind of thing going on here.
But I mean, Mary Shelley,
she had never written anything before and neither had Colette.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Well, but with the Mary Shelley, because she is actually, did they get married? I forget.
Yes, they did. They had to because of some
husband of whatever, Percy.
Yeah.
You know, he was an actual writer.
Yes.
Colette's husband, a giant freaking fraud.
He's like, well, I mean, I gave you a couple ideas and you used them, so I kind of wrote it.
Yeah, I mean, he has history of paying people for these books, so it's like he's not really a writer. So it's clearly all her because. He sucks with a capital S.
Yeah, just because you edit things, and that's the thing with like Percy. Percy just kind of edited, you know, and like that doesn't. Your publisher is not your writer, you know. No. I mean, so I'll just say now because you know so much other stuff later. Like after Willie's death, she ends up suing and wins the rights to remove his name from the novels. But then after she died, that son that he had, like the baby, ends up suing and winning the right to have his name restored to the novels.
Oh,
I believe today it is just her name on most of the novels. So, because now the kid's dead too, so it's just like whatever.
I really want to throw things right now, but I won't.
Yeah. So yeah, massively popular, and so at one point, Colette actually even asked, like, "Hey, can I get like some more credit for like all this work that I'm doing, like writing these novels?" And he refused and insisted that she wasn't working hard enough on them. And so he literally locked her in a room until she produced more pages.
Oh! What?
Yeah.
No!
Yeah. She is Princess in the Tower. She's Rapunzel. She's got the long hair and everything.
She is Rapunzel. Oh, okay. That's like somewhat okay, but it's still not okay.
Yeah. It just romanticizes like the trauma.
The trauma that this poor woman is facing.
Yeah.
It's like, excuse me, no. I didn't think I could hate a person I've never met before as much as I keep hating him more and more.
I know. He's fun.
Oh.
So by 1901, Colette made friends with this woman, Georgie. She was from a rich family in Louisiana, but was born in Paris. So I know I'm pronouncing her name correctly because she's fucking American.
Booyah, bitches.
Yeah. Georgie, not Georgie.
I was just like, what's this Louisiana girl doing in Paris?
Georgia. Yeah, Georgie.
Yeah.
So, she begins having this kind of friendship with her, and then they end up having an affair.
Ooh.
And then at the same time, Willie also begins to have an affair with her. And, like, Willie is aware that, like, Colette and Georgie are sleeping together, but Colette's not aware that, like, Georgie's sleeping with Willie. I know, it's like super weird. And he was all like into that idea too of like, yeah, I'm sleeping with like my wife's like lesbian lover. Ew. Like, he's such a creep.
He's such a creep.
Such a creep.
I've lost respect for Georgie.
I know, right?
I've really lost respect for Georgie.
It's okay. There's a better person. Colette also started having, like, after Georgie had a relationship with this other American expat, Natalie Barney, and she is really fucking cool. I love her. Basically, like, she was just like total, like, 100% lesbian. During that time, she's like friends with Gertrude Stein, and then like later on in life, she ends up having a relationship with Dolly Wilde, who's Oscar Wilde's niece.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm like, I like Natalie. Natalie's cool.
Natalie's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So
But also Natalie must be older than, like, significantly older than Oscar Wilde's niece, right?
Yes, at that time. So like Natalie was a couple years younger than Colette, like maybe 5 years younger than her or something like that. And so they kind of had a relationship, and then Dolly and Natalie didn't get together until like later, like a couple decades later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, so she's super fun. Anyway, so Colette's with her for a little while. When Colette turned 30, she cut off all of her hair, much to the horror of her in-laws and, of course, her mother, because her mother's like prides herself on her daughter's beauty, but she cuts it all off. She has like really short hair, and it's cute.
Wait,
super
and when
cute.
was this?
She was 30.
Okay, the math.
When did I say she was born?
1870
something.
Okay, so getting to the 1900s. So, yeah, still before that flapper era.
Yeah.
When it was fashionable for women to just cut off their hair. So she was like the hipster flapper.
She was a little bit, yeah. And it's like she's 30 now, and so she's kind of been married to this guy for 10 years, and she just kind of started to feel like she was coming into her own. Like I have a quote, her emotional immune system had been tested and proved by the lovesickness of youth. She must now cease the reckless dissipation of her vital forces and plan for her long-term survival. I was, Colette says, far from invulnerable, but I no longer dreamed of dying.
She's realizing she's got a lot to live for herself.
Yes. Like, hey, I need to look out for myself and not just be this like servant person to my
this Rapunzel
fucked up husband.
Yeah, this Rapunzel to this awful, gross monster of a person.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to say, I'm just loving sitting here holding this glass and talking about this with this purple. I'm just like, oh my god, I feel fancy right now. I feel sophisticated.
The hell? You're fancy when you say you're fancy.
Oh god, yes. As I'm in my like sweater,
your LL Bean jacket,
hair up in a scrunchie. Like, this bitch is fancy. My nightmare before Christmas knee-high socks. This is a picture
fancy.
Of complete fancy.
So classy over there.
The feel was giving me fancy. Talking about Colette, talking about her awesome revelation,
having a
from like
martini thing, gin martini, purple gin martini in a coupe glass.
In a cute glass. I'm like, oh my god. I don't care what I'm wearing. I feel fancy.
That's how it works. You just have to feel it,
I just feel fancy.
Fancy is not a physical state. It's a state of mind.
Exactly. That's our fancy song. Anyway, keep on the fancy.
Colette left Willie in 1906.
Yay! Snap for Colette.
Their divorce wouldn't be finalized until 1910. She started to earn money as a music hall performer. So while she was married, she had started, because she's like friends with all these lesbians and stuff like that, and so she's like totally in like rich fancy lesbian group, you know? And so they would throw these like private parties and have like performances. And so she actually would dress in drag and stuff like that and play like men's roles in like these performances that they were like, you know, hosting at like their private houses and like private clubs and all of that kind of stuff.
Super badass.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, you're sensing the 20s are nigh.
They're coming.
They're coming. They're just doing it ahead of time.
So it's also in her last year of her marriage when she met Marquis de Bellebouf, also known as Missy, who was a wealthy lesbian who had short hair, smoked cigars, and would dress in a 3-piece suit, which at the time was illegal for women to do.
Wow.
So Missy had been married to a well-known gay man, Jacques Godard, but they had divorced in 1903. So Missy's just like the highlight of these kind of parties and stuff like that too. Like she's, you know, tall, she dresses like a man, you know.
I feel like her husband and her made a really good arrangement.
I know, right? They kind of felt like, it seems like they should be like,
they shouldn't have gotten divorced. It's like, we've got a good thing going because now people don't have to like worry about it. We have this house, we've got stability, but I'm not interested in you
clearly they,
at all.
But I feel like they clearly had some issues because like they got divorced, you know, like they had some animosities and stuff like that towards each other. Yeah. And because like there was supposedly this thing where like, I will say, because I'm calling Missy she, and I know someone, since somebody like wanted to like freaking tell me that I shouldn't have called, you know, said, you know, Anne Ryan, like her, you know, her, whatever her name was, Alyssa, the pronoun thing or whatever, or Missy's like whole thing. Like I'm going to call her she because everyone calls her she. Like back then, scholars today, there's no indication that whether or not she was a lesbian or she thought of herself as a man. So I don't, you know, and you can't say that like the whole idea of gender subjectivity from then is the same as like gender subjectivity today. It's clearly different. And I think it's important for us to recognize the differences and not like force what we have going on today into the people in the past, you know, because otherwise we lack like the understanding, you know, the openness to understand everything that was going on. So I'm calling her she.
I would not have thought of that. That was a really good explanation, though.
Yeah.
Covering our bases.
Just
can't
covering
get mad
the
at us
bases.
for every little thing. We're trying our best here, people.
Yeah. And anyway, so my point being that like some of the stuff with her husband, like she took basically like his title, the, you know, Marquis de Bellebouf or whatever, and you know, like kind of as like a fuck you to him.
You know that the Marquis de Bellebouf, bouf is beef.
Oh.
So like a beef, a master
Bellebouf,
of beef.
Bellebouf.
Okay.
Bellebouf. Whatever.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
like, I had to
I was
like search for it again.
They were cow herders? I don't know.
Yeah, so she like took that thing, and some people even said that like one of the reasons she really like dressed as a man a lot of the time was because she was mocking masculinity, and you know, and probably like somewhat his masculinity because he's gay and like I don't know and all this. So
I would have loved to have met that couple. And it's not like, and again, just to cover our bases, I'm not condoning a lesbian and a gay man to get married today because we have more freedoms. Yeah. But back then, when you could end up being arrested or something, like
wild.
Exactly. Like this was maybe a good way to like kind of make sure you had safety.
Yeah.
As well as push the boundaries. Because you don't want to like...
Yeah.
You want to push the boundaries, but you don't want to like also like die from it. But back then, that was actually like a pretty interesting arrangement.
I know, right?
It's like, we can invite people over. I will take my lovers. You take your lovers. We don't care. Everything's
good,
great.
Right? Yeah, you'd think it would be great. But no, apparently they kind of, they hated each other.
That's so sad.
I know, it is sad. Colette writes about what attracted her to like the lesbian community was the fact
well, hopefully that she was attracted to women first and foremost. Like I feel like that's a necessity for being part of the community.
Yeah,
otherwise
it's,
it's just kind of like a little fucked up that you're just like, I just want to be part of this community. Like, well, these people are actually like attracted to females and
yes, there's definitely that. There's obviously that, but like, you know, she's like going full on in of like, oh my god, I want to hang out with these people all the time and like be around them all the time and just like I just love this energy and like these women and everything. And part of it was that she felt like she saw a bunch of women who were like yearning for equality. And to her, it was really a lot of that kind of. So,
okay, yeah, totally mad respect for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she did not have equality.
Right. Yes, exactly. She had a very like, parent-child kind of, relationship with like her ex-husband. And then like, and also men for the most part had like created the definition of like what's a quote unquote real woman. And these women were like not living within those means by like being, cross-dressers and like and just, going by male names. Cause even Missy at some point, she went by like Uncle Max to people. And that's where there is like a whole like, did she see herself as a man or was she just a lesbian cross-dresser? Was she just like the female Eddie Izzard or whatever? Even though Eddie Izzard's now she, but
or it's like just like a power stance too.
Yeah,
not even like cross-dressing or gender identity.
Yeah,
but just as like I'm gonna take back my own power and in a severely masculine world, I'm gonna take on a masculine persona to take ownership.
Yes.
Of my power.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So Colette and Missy, they got involved and she lived with Missy for 5 years. And what she said about Missy was, quote, that Missy was striving for the impossible, but nevertheless noble idea of total fusion with the other and self-sufficiency in a hostile world. I'm like, nice.
Yep. Totally. Cool. I like it. I'd be part of this community. As like a, hey, can I join?
Oh, yeah.
From like this, like, I don't want to like.
I think, when people say like, when would you want to go back in time? I'm like, I think I would want to go back to like the 19 teens in France and hang out with the lesbians. Like, they just sound like the best people to hang out with.
Drink these purple gin
things. And so it's like they would all like, get together and they dress like guys and like, have their carriage blinds down so that nobody could see them so they wouldn't get arrested, and then they go to like private like poker games or like go into like erotic bookstores or like go to cabarets and stuff like that. And it's just like, that sounds like way fun.
It does sound fun. See, I can't pick one because I feel like there's just interesting things that do happen, especially amongst like intellectuals in each period where you're like, they're pushing the boundaries and it's like, you're still really cool because you're pushing the boundaries. So I couldn't pick one, but I would pick that as the many.
Okay, so Willie was actually really supportive of her, oddly enough.
I mean, the reason he's being supportive is because
really
he's creepy and weird.
Because he's a creeper.
He just wants to like picture her with other women, and he's a creepy fucktard.
So there's this one story where he like wrote this script for the Moulin Rouge, where it was, and actually I think he actually did write it, or maybe he like co-wrote it with them, so he might have not. He Ben Affleck the whole. Relationship with his.
Are you saying like Matt Damon? I love it. I love that reference to Good Will Hunting. Movie.
So he wrote this story, and it was about this like Egyptian mummy who like comes back to life and like makes out with this like archaeologist, and the archaeologist was played by Missy, and Missy's like ex-husband. Like, it's the Moulin Rouge, so they already, like, kind of do things like this. But, like, Missy, I should say...
They do. But they don't really do, like, dead people stuff.
It's kind of weird, the necrophiliac kind of...
Yeah, like, I'm a dead mummy, and I'm coming back to life. I don't know about that whole, like, mummy thing.
Because also, then you have two women making out on stage, and it's, like, 1909 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, Missy, so she had that very important ex-husband. She also was like the niece of Napoleon.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah, she's super cool. Read about her. She's awesome.
Which apparently Napoleon wasn't actually that short.
No.
So she probably wasn't like
exactly. She was like 5'11" or something like that, which is like, I think the same height as Napoleon. But everyone made fun of him for being short because...
It was like a mistake in... but it was like a mistake in like in documentation. Something happened where it was like, oh, you look shorter than you actually are. You're actually a very average sized man.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like calling a man short back then was probably the same as like saying like spreading rumors that the guy has a small dick or something today. So Missy's ex-husband finds out that like she's in this show or whatever on the Moulin Rouge and it's gonna be all racy and stuff. And so like he and all of his like bros like rent out the entire orchestra section and they start like throwing like coins and fruit and all that shit and they start a riot. Yeah, he's a weirdo. Like I'm really kind of
the gay
man who
husband.
Yeah, is all like, boo, my lesbian ex-wife is making out with a woman on stage. Boo!
Oh, he's got some deep-seated
He
issues.
needed therapy real bad.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fun little thing that happened.
That doesn't want to be like, okay, can I find my next lesbian lover? This one's got too much baggage.
But yeah, I mean, they stayed together for like 5 more years after, after that. So, yeah.
Timing. Timing is everything.
In 1910, she published a novel inspired by this like period of time in her life where she's, doing these fun shows, working as a musical hall actress, whatever. It's titled The Vagabond. Divorce is finalized. They are no longer cordial with each other. They like totally hate each other. He's become like a total ass. And he's even like threatening to like publish a novel about her mom's and her sordid life and stuff. He sucks.
Yeah, why you gotta bring the mom into it?
And just a couple years after they divorced, Missy, she had a lot of mental health issues. Like her life is kind of depressing. It's interesting, but depressing. And that kind of put a strain on her relationship with Colette. And since Colette now is gaining all this notoriety, is this like famous music hall actress, and also like from her writing, because she wrote a couple other things, all these like suitors kind of come calling to her, so she's got these like dudes who are just like, hey girl, hey, and sliding into her
exactly
DMs.
What they said in the early 1900s France. Knock on the door, hey girl, hi. Oh, that would be romantic of you.
Yeah. So most notably was Henry de Jouvenel, who was an editor for a paper, and she was really smitten by Henry. And it's like the first time she found someone who she didn't have a parent-child type relationship with, because even with Missy was like older than her, so there was this kind of weird parent-child thing, like,
or they just want to boss you around.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
She's been clearly bossed around a lot.
Yeah, her mom was bossy. Her first husband's bossy. Missy's probably mentally ill and bossy because she's like got all this.
It's also part of like a huge musical theater group. So she's like, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah,
and
exactly. She was like the commander, it's like, and Colette's like, oh, this little, ingenue, because even when she was 30, she looked like she was like 20. And she would actually play Claudine from her Claudine novels and like plays and stuff like that. She was like in her 30s and playing like a 16-year-old. I don't know what that's like.
No, of course you don't. No,
I've been playing 16 for the last 16 years. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you have no idea what it's like. I remember when you celebrated, I got to play an 18-year-old.
I know, that was so exciting. I'm like, yay, I'm almost an adult.
Even though you actually are.
I can relate to Colette on a lot of things sometimes. I'm like, I get you, girl.
I get you.
So she's totally in love with this guy Hen right now. Like, she's just like so smitten. And she like even giddily wrote to her mother, quote, I received letters from de Jouvenel that are truly worthy of me, if I dare say so. To which Sido replied, you deserve to inspire them, my dear.
Aw, what a good mom.
I know, her mom is awesome. Her mom also used to be like, she'd be like really supportive of her relationship with Missy and like would write letters just to Missy too and stuff. Her mom's awesome.
Aw, how cool.
So
again, everyone has flaws because mom's awesome, but didn't like her other daughter because she was not pretty.
But she's all like, no, but I'm cool. It's like 1910 and I'm cool that my daughter is like a lesbian. And I'm cool if my daughter doesn't want to be a lesbian anymore. It's all good. Everyone's happy.
Yeah. But my other daughter's kind of ugly.
Yeah, like, but she's ugly. I wish she wasn't ugly. It really depresses me. It's like, okay.
Thanks, Mom.
Cool.
I'm not developing a complex at all.
Why can't you just be pretty like your sister?
God.
I became a doctor, though, Mama.
I'm really, really successful. And she's British. Look at all that I've done. Well, you're still ugly.
Yeah. Poor Juliet.
Oh, poor Juliet.
So Colette and Henry married in 1912, which upset her mother only because she had heard extensively about him in all these letters, but she had yet to meet him.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. She's like, what? You just got married to this guy? I know you love him, but like...
Can I at least meet him before you like get hitched? Like, that's not much for a mom to ask, to be fair. Yeah. That's not. Especially because they're still probably all living in France.
They were in like... I forget. I purposefully didn't put down the name of where like Sido and... Colette never like originally are from. I think the Burgundy region.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but
because
it's
I was all like,
France.
I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, so I'm just not going to include it.
There you go. But it's all France.
Yeah, it's all France.
So it's not like you're like, oh, well, you're in Russia and I'm in France and money's tight. No, you're still in the same country. At least let me meet.
It's early 1900s. You can get around pretty easily.
Yeah, let me meet your boat.
Yeah. So Henry was the editor-in-chief of the Le Matin paper, and Colette would contribute like reviews and short stories and all of that to it. A few months into their relationship, they had a bit of a falling out, and they both wanted to just end it and be like, let's get divorced. You know, like we're a couple months in, but we're done. Like, we're out.
Great. Okay.
However, neither one of them could afford to leave. It's also around this time that Colette's mother wrote to her begging her to come see her. In late August, she and Henry also began to reconcile, but she wanted to take a quick weekend trip to go visit her mother, writing to a friend, quote, "Mother isn't wonderful, but she could still hold out for a while, and that's all one asks of her." So...
Mom's not doing well.
Yeah, Mom was getting old and sick, and...
Yeah.
In the middle of September, Colette was a part of a new show, The Nightbird, and it opened. And the second week of the show, her mom died, and Colette didn't cancel the show, and she didn't go to the funeral or anything.
Did she get to go see her mom for a weekend that weekend?
She did go see her mom for a weekend, like a couple weeks earlier, and then she was just doing this show, and apparently, like, she never really acknowledged her mom's death or like mourned about it in public or in any letters that she like wrote to her friends, except one thing where she wrote to a friend and she said, quote, "Things are going pretty well, but I'm tormented by this stupid thought that I can't write to Mother anymore the way that I used to so often do."
No, that's so sad.
I know. Like, Mama, we used to talk all the time, and
no, we can't.
Yeah.
Oh, I got really sad.
I know. So, and then after Mom died, she suffered once again from one of her mysterious and unexplainable illnesses. And Henry...
Probably another bout of depression and grief and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And so Henry stayed by her side, and he, quote, "tends to my sorrows in a loving and delicate manner." And in 1913, Colette is now 40 years old, and she gave birth to a daughter named Colette de Journeville.
Aww.
Yeah.
How cute.
Yeah. Oh, and I will say, like, when she married Henry, that's when she finally started to go by just Colette. Like, dropped all the other names and things and stuff like that, and she's just Colette.
Okay.
So kind of when she's acting, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm Cher.
Yes, exactly. Now I'm Cher. The stage name.
So, yeah, and then she names her daughter, Colette.
Aww. To make it official.
Yeah.
Because it was her last name, and now it's somebody's first name.
Yes. Yeah. And so, let's see. Yeah, and so while she's pregnant, she ends up working on her next book, because she hadn't worked on anything for a while, because she was just acting and being this, like, famous stage star, but while she was pregnant, she starts working on the book The Shackle, and she finished it up shortly after giving birth, because she just felt like she had all this energy after giving birth, which I think is exactly your face, like I don't think people talk about that or whatever. Like,
no, like I hear a lot about how I'm tired.
Yeah,
things are draining. My body's not the same. Everything hurts. What's going on? I don't know what I'm doing. But never. I know. Let me write more.
Yeah, exactly. She's working 11-hour days, like working on this novel and stuff like that.
I'm taking care of an infant.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but she's got like nannies and shit, so they're kind of the ones taking care of the child.
That's true,
really,
I guess. But still, your body, like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. See, I think that's part of it, because she was really worried about like giving birth and like, oh no, it's gonna ruin me like physically and erotically and stuff like that, and I'm just gonna, oh, I don't know, and then afterwards she's just all like, oh my god, I'm losing this weight, I'm still fit, like she's this, so, but like I will say, like, later on in life, and which is kind of where we're at, like she's in her 40s and stuff, and she was like 180 pounds, but she was like muscular, like she's got like really great arms and really great legs, and like, so she's like a really sexy like fat woman, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And she loved the fact,
well,
like
she
she's
maybe
just like, woo.
yeah, well, maybe too, like she realized like it's not that big of a deal. what her worries were. It's like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And all of a sudden she's just like, oh my gosh, I still feel sexy, like, after giving it birth.
Now
so
my body's like,
let me write a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, my body's like extra cool because I like produced a human, but I'm still sexy and like fit and still can be a star. So
yeah,
I'm
and I'm
pretty
in my
badass.
40s. Like, yeah, awesome.
I'm awesome. Yeah. Okay. So she had like this bout of like, I'm cool. Let me write more.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate that. You go, Colette. You
go. When World War I started, she volunteered as a night nurse at the hospital, and it was like a shift. Nobody wanted to be the night nurse. And she'd work like 13-hour, shifts or whatever. And then Henry, he was out on the front lines between like Germany and France. What?
I'm just thinking this poor child does not have a present mom.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay. Here's this baby. I'm working 11-hour days just to write, and then now I'm gonna like.
And now World War II started, so I'm gonna be a nurse for like 13-hour days.
Exactly.
And so yeah,
Yay.
And so then Henry's out in the front lines between Germany and France, and she decides, I'm going to go visit him because she like couldn't be without him, and just, I hate this. And so she like leaves Paris under like an assumed name and like joins him on the front lines. And then since she's out there and she's like a writer and stuff, like she starts becoming like basically a war correspondenter. And so she's like writing about that, and like the papers that she's writing for like just love her and think she's great. And so then they send her to like Rome to like write about like war shit going on there, like, and she's just doing that. Like, that's what she did during World War I.
I mean, badass, but your poor child.
Yes. Yes. And so she is constantly called like a neglectful mother. Like when people are like, fun facts about Colette or whatever, they say like, oh, she was this totally neglectful mother. But it's like, yes.
You can't disagree with that one. If she's just like, I have this new baby.
Yes.
And I'm going to do everything that doesn't let me be around my baby.
Right. But the baby's well taken care of. The baby had a nanny. The baby's fine. The baby's totally good. Like, the baby loved her nursey nanny, and...
But at the same time, she had such a good relationship with her own mother. Like, wouldn't you want that as a mom? Like, I want to have a good relationship with my child?
Okay. Yes and no. She had a better relationship with her mother when she was an adult. And she always kind of saw her mom as someone who like kind of lived her life the way that she wanted to live her life. And so I think that's kind of what, she wanted to do with her life is like, I want to live my life the way I'm supposed to live my life, and really like there's no standard of like how you're supposed to be, being a mother and being a writer, because nobody had really done that before. Like at that time, like if you're a writer and you're a woman, like you're basically like celibate or a lesbian, and or you're not a writer and you're a mother, like, so there wasn't some place to understand what's the best way to balance your life, so
yeah, I guess. I'm just like, this poor child.
Yeah.
I would want my mom, but you to you.
Yes. I do want to say with like a couple things when she was in the war, she describes like her time on the front lines with her husband as like, quote, the happiest time in her life. And the worst of it being, quote, that she forgot her shower cap and makeup kit. So she's just kind of funny. And then at one point when she was in Rome, there was this guy who's like this prince who was trying to kept on trying to like seduce her and stuff. And then she'd just like pull out pictures of her baby and be like, oh, don't you know my lovely baby? Like, look at my baby.
Oh my God. So she uses her baby as like repellent?
Get away. Please stop trying to have sex with me. I'm a mother.
Okay. Not great. Okay. Yeah, okay. Anyway. So, yeah, okay. I love it. I'm using my baby as man repellent.
Yeah, maybe men don't want women with babies. Like, hello.
It's like mosquito repellent, but for men. Have a baby and then show its picture.
Yeah.
Never be in that baby's life, but at least show the picture.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So after the war, she wrote one of her most famous works titled Chérie, which is a post-war, young generation, slightly depraved novel about a young man and his love affair with a woman old enough to be his mother. And it's published in 1918. And it's during this time that her relationship with Henry has become, start to unravel. He was having an affair with this younger woman, and she was now in her 40s, beginning to feel like her sexuality and, and his attraction to her was like fading and all of that. So that summer that Cherie came out, Colette and Henry, and by the way, he had a son from a previous marriage. They all go off to like this summer cottage, and they would do that every summer. But this summer, Henry like leaves after like a couple days to go like hang out with his mistress back in Paris. And so now it's just like Colette and like her stepson, and she invites like a bunch of girlfriends over to like hang out. Yeah.
Is her baby in this at all?
I don't know where the baby is. The baby's off with the nanny.
So
the baby's
worried
fine.
about the baby.
The baby's fine. The baby's with the nanny doing something,
God. I'm going to take my stepson, but my own child, you're staying behind.
like
I'll give you a couple peanut butter
Child
sandwiches.
should be there too, but I'm not. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
It's really like
It's like in that whole novel about her. The
It's
baby's,
like in
barely
those
mentioned.
TV shows when someone has a baby and then you like never see the baby again until like some viewers were talking about like, hey, didn't that person have a child at one point? And so then they like randomly bring out the baby for like 2 seconds in some other episode. Like, yeah, no, the kid's still alive. Like,
yeah. It's here. Yeah.
We didn't forget.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Totally. It's this 90s sitcom type situation. Didn't you have a baby? Yes, we did. Every 20th episode, it might make an appearance.
Yeah, like Ben and Friends,
I was thinking Ben.
Exactly. It's like, oh right,
Ross
had a child.
Ross is actually a very absentee father. When you actually break it down.
Really? Yes, really.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're hanging out. It's Bertrand and Bert and Colette. They're hanging out with, and then all of Colette's like older friends, and there's like basically this almost famous-y kind of, situation going on where like all the women, Colette and her friends, are all talking and like laughing and stuff like that, and Bert's just kind of like, oh, I don't know what's going on, until finally he writes, Colette took him took him aside and asked him which one of her friends he preferred. He had no idea what she was suggesting, so she put it more bluntly. It's time for you to become a man.
Oh my God, no.
However, he wasn't attracted to any of Colette's friends. He was attracted to her. Anyway, long story short, Colette and her stepson start an affair with each other. In case that was not obvious.
It's just got really Graduate-esque.
It's the original Graduate.
I guess so.
Oh, yeah. And, and Henry now at this time, he was dating this other young woman, and now he's dating this, like, Romanian princess, and he's, like, totally in love with her. And so, like, and Colette ends up having an affair with the stepson for, like, 5 years. I know, it's so crazy. There's a lot of, like, weird things, and kind of even the idea that maybe his mother even sort of pushed him onto his stepmother. And yeah, life is fun in France. Colette.
I mean, like, I definitely get, like, France is known for its, like...
Probably because of people like Colette.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't. Nope. Not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, so Henry's off, he's in love with this Romanian princess, and...
Of course.
He's like, oh, it's not just a mistress, I'm, like, really in love with her.
I mean, how can you not with a Romanian princess?
I know, Romanian princess.
Like, come on, that does sound pretty sexy.
I know,
like, I'm sorry.
My girlfriend, the Romanian princess.
I'm sorry. I feel like there's some things where you're like, okay, I understand if you're doing that. If my husband was like, I'm going to go have an affair with a Romanian princess, I'd be like, that sucks, but I get it. Because that sounds crazy sexy.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So
I'm not going to be happy. I'll probably still divorce you, but I'm like, I'm not going to be angry about it.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, not as much, I guess. Yeah. So Colette ends up staying like busy. She's increasing her work with like Lemoncello newspaper and
and let's avoid the word doing, because then I think stepson.
No. I mean, she's doing that too, but she also starts starring in the stage play of her novel Sherry. So she's playing the Mrs. Robinson on stage all the time, every night.
She's doing her steps.
I know, it's so crazy. So in 1924, Colette is at a dinner party with some of her like rich society friends. And it was also attended by the stylish, handsome Jewish bachelor Maurice Coquette. And Colette is 51 at the time, and Maurice is 35. So, okay, let me paint the scene. Like, Maurice was this very respectable, subdued man who a lot of people described him as being boring. And, like, one of the reasons, only reasons he was really invited to these parties is because he was, like, a pearl merchant or seller or something like that. So he had this, like, he's basically Mr. Darcy. He's Mr. Darcy. Okay. And then she is...
Was Mr. Darcy a pearl merchant?
I don't know, but he had a lot of money, and so, but he's kind of annoying, you know. But you still invite him to the parties because he has a lot of money, so he's like part of the society. And like,
okay. I was like, wait, did I miss something in Pride and Prejudice? Mr. Darcy was a pearl merchant.
That's how he made all of his money. So, and so then Colette, she, on the other hand, it walks into the party and quote commandeers a sofa and stretches out on it like a great cat, leaning her tousled head on her bare arms. This breach of decorum displeased Coquette, who noted to himself that she was a bit too fat, but that she had lovely shoulders, a fine profile, and a penetrating voice of bronze. So,
what a compliment!
It's very Mr.
Hey,
Darcy.
Hey, babe, you got a penetrating voice of bronze, man.
Yeah, but you could lose some weight.
You want to come over today?
It's very Mr. Darcy. Like, yo, your family sucks, but I kind of like you. Want to go out?
Despite my better judgment, I like you.
Like, fuck off, dude.
I know. Because that one scene where he is just like, everyone's like, it's so, especially in the,
the Keira Knightley one.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, it's so romantic. But it's like, if you actually pay attention to what he's saying, and if anyone said that to you, you'd be like, you asswipe.
Right.
So my
friends probably won't like it if I date you.
Yeah.
But I do
like
you.
I feel like I like you, but it's like, again, like I know better than to like you, but I still like you.
But I don't want society to be aware of it.
Yeah, like I don't know. I like you.
Well, so he clearly didn't really like Colette. Colette's like, ooh, he's kind of fascinating and interesting. I think, But they started to have, because she's still having the affair with the stepson at this time. And so, I mean, apparently it was kind of more of an affair than affair because they had a relationship for like 5 years. So, it's...
It's just does not. It
it's
tastes
just
bad every time.
Yes, exactly. It's like
just,
blah, blah, blah.
It's you spit it out, you shiver.
Yes,
you don't like it.
Yeah. But yeah, so Colette and Maurice become friends. Like they've just become like friends, having lunch every once in a while. And he actually told, like, he's 16 younger than her, and he actually would be like, oh yeah, I grew up reading your novels and stuff, and so she's
make her feel good.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Like woohoo!
Is this young old man who grew up reading my works?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So eventually they do fall in love, and it was probably like the most meaningful relationship in Colette's life because, she's someone who's always striving for equality of some sort, and every one of her relationships have been like she's the child to these other people as parents. She has an affair with a person who's clearly more of a son, and here you have this guy who is like admires and respects you, and you have the same kind of admiration and respect for him because she's like, oh, he's kind of cool, he's a nerd, but I like him, I like that he's a nerd.
He didn't like go gaga over her. He was just like, yeah, she's cool, I like her. Against my better judgment, but yeah, she's fat. I like her. Yeah. Obviously it's not just like this work, it's like this worship stuff, It's like there's lacking that worship mentality.
Yeah.
Which is definitely needed. You should never worship your partner.
No, exactly. So she and Henry divorce. She marries Maurice.
Wait, so what?
Yes. She and her husband, he's in love with the Romanian princess. They finally get divorced.
I thought they got divorced a long time ago.
Oh, no. They like...
What? Nope. Okay, let's keep going.
Yes.
Nope.
It's just, just people
I want to keep my dinner in my stomach. Thanks.
So, yeah, 1920s, 1930s of her life is not all that interesting because she's just crazy fucking happy the whole time. Like, she's, writing, she's touring, playing Sherry, and playing in Cherry. Sherry's the name of the boy that has an affair with the older woman. Okay. And she's just happy, and so it's like her late 50s, because she's now in her late 50s. She was essentially having this like second youth,
Yeah. She's doing everything
she probably should have done in her 20s,
know? Yeah. Having a normal, healthy relationship, building a career, being successful financially.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. So it's all good. And she becomes friends with Missy again, like because Missy was, always kind of a mother kind of figure in a sense. And so they're writing letters about their cats and their gardens, and it's like super cute. Aww. And like and just like, oh hey, how's it going? Like, just friends.
The roses are looking especially bloomy today.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, that sounds like an innuendo. Never mind. I'm gonna pick a different flower.
Oleander? I don't know.
Yeah.
Colette starts writing her book called The Pure and the Impure. It's a series of conversations about sex, gender, and attraction. And Colette herself would actually consider it her best book ever. In 1941, France falls to Nazi Germany. And Maurice, he's Jewish, so he ends up getting arrested by the Gestapo.
No.
For being, quote, charged with the crime of being a Jew.
Yeah, no, that definitely happened.
Yeah.
No, her happiness.
So Maurice is sent to a detention camp. Colette did everything she could to get him out. So the one thing that ended up working was she befriended Suzanne Abez, who was the wife of the German ambassador. So Frau Abez was totally smitten by the fact that like has this new celebrity friend who like wants to hang out with her and get lunch and this and that and sign copies of her books and that she owns. And so then she convinces her husband like, oh, we should like let her let Colette's husband free. And so
we can get together. Come on, honey.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could all have tea? Oh, the only problem is that you are a Nazi who's holding my husband in a detention camp.
Yeah, but like, okay, so I'll totally get him free, and then
great.
we can all do like a couples brunch,
yes.
like every other
It'd
Sunday.
be so cute.
Oh my god, let's do it.
I'm so ready.
Oh my god,
okay,
I love it.
Oh, thank you so much, girlfriend. I'll send you flowers.
Yay!
It's like 60
I
days.
actually like that.
Yeah.
That's real good espionage.
I know,
there.
right?
Like,
I'll be friends with the wife, and she'll tell her husband, like, no, honey, like, we need to get this guy free because I love it. Like, do you realize that his wife is, like, super famous, and she wants to be my BFF?
Oh, my God, I love this espionage. Like, that's, like, really good. That's really kind of very smart.
Yeah.
Control the wife to control the husband.
Yeah.
And set people free from shitty, awful situations. All the women just need to be friends, control the patriarch, and everything becomes happy and things can get along.
You know how everyone always asks, like, the whole, like, the flies with honey thing? And it's like, why do you want flies? Sometimes you might need the flies. And this is one of those flies with honey. Like, oh, you are just little flies. Fuck you all. But I can probably find a way to...
get what I want from it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And after this, then they start.
I would pay to see that movie, by the way. This sort of espionage that happens, like, I totally would.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my God, I would so love to watch the psychological impacts that Colette was probably going through, too. Like, I have to, like, fake someone that I really probably detest because she's part of something that I can't stand.
Yeah.
But I have to get it so that I can free my husband.
Yeah. Right?
I would totally
that'd be kind of a fun World War II movie. Yeah. And after that, she has total anxiety and depression over the fact that he's probably going to get arrested again. At this time, they're rounding up all the Jews in Paris and sending them off to the concentration camps and stuff like that. She's hiding him around and all of that. And at one point, she ends up flirting with the Nazis and then even, like, telling some guy, like, that she's thinking about converting to religion. And she starts writing some articles for like these Nazi papers. And so all these people are like, what? But I thought her husband's Jewish and this and that. But I'm like, but even Maurice said that like it was likely that she was kind of doing those things to help with get him immunity just in case he was ever captured again. Because that was like her biggest fear. And she just felt like it was never going to end. Like she didn't think the Allies were going to come and save Paris and stuff. Like she thought it's all over and this is just the life that we're going to have from now on. And it's just going to be me like freaking hiding you in the maid's quarters and, all day and like, doing, and I have to like appease these assholes all the time and stuff. And so she continued to find like different little ways of like, I guess, trying to keep them
manipulating.
safe. Yeah. Manipulating in a way
system.
that like works okay. Like telling some, like Nazi priest guy, like, oh, you know what? I'm thinking about religion. Like, I've never been religious, obviously, if you know who I am. But, I'm thinking about it now. Like, you want to come over for tea and just tell me about religion or something? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Why should I be interested?
Yeah. And my husband's going to sit there and...
Oh, he's not there. He's not here. Oh,
that's right.
Yeah. We're pretending he's not here.
Yeah. But still, like, yeah. Interesting.
So, and she ended up writing a lot during this time, and a lot of it was like she wrote a lot of like escapist kind of stuff. So she wrote her most famous novel, Gigi, which is like really fun and silly. It's about this like woman who's trained to be a courtesan to like attract like rich guys, but she falls in love with some wealthy guy and he falls in love with her. And
oh, I have heard of that book before.
Yeah.
It is very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it became like super, super famous. They made like 2 movies, like one in the 40s, like after she wrote it, and another one in the 50s. And they also made a stage version of it. And Colette got to choose what actress. She could choose any actress in the entire world to play Gigi. In the, premiere of the stage version. And she decided to choose this extremely unknown, have never done anything before actress, Audrey Hepburn.
Wow! How cool!
Yeah. She basically helped launch Audrey's career.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's old now. She's in her 70s, 80s.
Uh-huh.
She keeps writing like the rest of her life. She writes biographies about how it's weird to be a writer who like has only basically written about their own lives, and so what the hell do I write now? Like,
yeah,
doesn't sound like that interesting of a book, but still interesting. She's just doing her thing. And and later in life, she ends up having a really good relationship with her daughter when they're older. Okay. Well, kind of like
that
her
daughter
and her
definitely
mom.
has some. Well, her mom still was
like neglectful-ish, but yeah, neglectful.
Yeah, because they still had like gardening stuff. They probably lived in like provincial France. So they still had some sort of relationship.
Yeah,
she just straight up disappeared and was in Rome.
Well, for a little while and all over, and then just writing at home and the nanny, and I think the daughter mainly was brought up in Sido, her mom's house, with the nanny, because she kind
not even in Paris.
Yeah, it was like, you need to go away so I can write. And then I think also then you have World War II, and so I think it was like, okay, no, stay away. And
fair.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm glad that it reconciled.
Yeah. So yeah, they end up having a pretty good relationship when they're older, and so now she's older, her health is declining. In the last few months of her life, she spent all of her time looking at like lithographs with Maurice, and like illustrated books of like insects and flowers and things, because she couldn't get out of bed, and so she wanted to like look at nature, because she like loved outside and nature. And on the day she died, August 3rd, 1954, Maurice described her as radiantly happy, and that she was just kind of sitting there like talking to someone and just like all like giddy, like little girl, kind of just happy. And so, he goes off for a walk in the evening, and he comes back, and, she had died. Colette hated funerals. So she gave no instructions on what she wanted, except she did tell her housekeeper, quote, "People mustn't see me when I've died." She ended up being the first woman in France to be given a state funeral. There was over 6,000 people there, mostly women, who attended, like the main kind of thing. And then afterwards, it was just like, when she was buried, it was just like her and her family. And supposedly as soon as they like started to shovel like the dirt onto her coffin, it started to like have this one of the biggest storms of the century. And
so poetic.
yeah, exactly. It's like, ooh, Colette would have loved that.
Yes.
Going out with a literal bang.
Yes, exactly. Lightning.
Yeah. So
How
yes.
cool.
And that's the life of Colette.
I mean, definitely a part of the Best Friends Club. I would hang out with her for sure.
Oh yeah.
For sure, sure. Especially with the
Colette.
Colette.
We'll
The
just call it
Colette.
the
We
Colette.
could name it the Colette.
Yes.
Whatever you want to name it, but
the
yeah.
Gigi. I don't know.
The Gigi. Oh my god, I love that. That's how Audrey Hepburn got her start.
Yeah.
Now I really want to read Gigi.
Oh, and yeah, I mean, Colette knew everyone. She met Truman Capote at one point. Truman Capote came to visit her, and she noticed that he was like admiring this like paperweight on her desk. And Colette's like, "Oh, let me give that to you." And he's like, "No, no, no! Like, oh, you clearly like care about it. It's on your desk." And she's all like, "Oh, no, honey. The best gifts are gifts that you admire yourself and you give to others."
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my god, I love her.
Yeah.
Not a fan of abandoning your child, but I'm glad she like figured it out. Also not a fan of like having an affair with your stepson. But like I'm glad.
Yeah, but probably for both of them, it was like getting back at
Him.
one. Yeah, like
Yeah.
her getting back at her husband. For the the stepson, it's getting back at his dad because his dad was like neglectful
shitty,
and and not a great dad. And so it's all like, yeah, I'm gonna sleep with your wife. Isn't that like the whole Stacy's mom kind of thing? I mean,
Stacy's mom has got it going on. No, it's Colette is my stepmom and she's got it going on.
she's all I want, and I've waited for so long.
Ever since my dad walked her down the aisle.
I thought, ooh, Colette, I want you to be more than just my stepmom.
Wow, I like that version of Stacy's mom. We just ran with that one. No, that was a good story. I really liked her story.
Yeah,
That was a
she's
good
got
one.
a good one.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, we don't have to talk about the cocktail because it makes sense. You drink it, you feel fancy, you want to hang out with some early 1900s lesbians in France.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Boom.
It gave
That's
you the
it.
exact feel that you need for this person.
Yes.
And no explanation needed.
Yes.
It just is that feel.
I knew as soon as I had tried that gin like a month or two ago, I'm like, this is the gin I'm going to use with Colette because it's just like fancy and fun and weird, and that's
Delicious.
her life. Yes,
Yeah.
and delicious, and that's her life.
And that's her life.
Fancy, fun, weird, and delicious.
And add some limoncello for
Yes.
some added
little-
flair. Because she
Yeah.
liked the added flair. Yay! Well, that was so good.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
Oh, I do want to say one of my favorite quotes of hers is, "What a wonderful life I've had. I only wish I'd realized it sooner."
Aww. I love that quote too.
Yeah, it's like,
Love.
yes.
So much love.
Yeah, sources is just Secrets of the Flesh, The Life of Colette by Judith Thurman. It's a book. It's huge, and everyone should read it. It's good.
You gave it 4 stars.
I did. Yeah, because I'm very picky, and I don't always give everything. I don't give a lot of things 5 stars. And I will say that there's some of the genealogy stuff that like she goes on forever about in that book, where I'm like, dude, I don't really care, even though sometimes it's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, knowing that Missy was Napoleon Bonaparte's like niece. It's like,
You could say that in like 5 sentences. Or like, not
yeah,
5,
exactly.
5
Instead
words.
of like, ooh, and this person really didn't. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, oh my god, a little too much, and it's just the side character, and like,
Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Yay.
Well, thanks for going on that journey.
yeah. We have a live episode March 21st.
Yeah, we do. Be there, be square.
Yeah.
And don't be square because that's boring.
No.
Be like Colette and be interesting.
Yes.
And show up for our episode.
Be a fat, voluptuous martini.
Yes. Ooh, I like it. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
We post really
Cute
fun
things.
photos and like some like just, I don't know, stuff. So just follow us.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.